All right, welcome, Lance. First episode. Pleasure
Yeah,
to finally have you on.
good
Um,
to be here.
yeah, just sort of wanted to go through a bit about yourself and a few different topics. But yeah, feel free to jump in with wherever you want to start. I was thinking probably just introducing you a little bit. So obviously your background, well, to me at least, is fitness and martial arts. So how did you get started in, I suppose, martial arts?
So it goes back to when I was about 11. I started doing Taekwondo as a kid, and what prompted me to get into it was I wasn't very good at team sports. I didn't really work well in teams, and I was more attracted to like individual sports. So I had a friend at school who was doing Taekwondo at a club near us, which is Burridge, which a lot of people would know about. And I started there, and just fell in love with it. So martial arts has been one of those things that ever since I was a kid, I've just kind of done, and it ticks a lot of boxes for me in terms of like, it's a physical development tool, it's self-development, self-defense, there's a philosophy to it, there's all sorts of cool stuff. And I guess that's why I've always sort of been drawn to it.
Awesome. So Taekwondo first of all, and was that something you sort of just thought was cool and just because it was close or just friends? What sort of prompted
Yeah,
you?
it, it's one of those things, like I just had a friend going there, I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
It was just like the thing that you do as a kid.
Yeah.
So started with Taekwondo. I got my black belt in 3 years, and
Already.
and then at that point, and at that point, I lost interest in it. So when I was in high school, I kind of waned away from it.
Yeah.
Um, but towards the end of high school, I got back into it and went to a new club, and that was ATI. So I know a few people who you've sort of in contact with through Armour and stuff, and even
Yeah.
yourself. They're affiliated with ATI. So I was at ATI for quite a while, and I instructed there full time for 2 years. So at their Claremont club, I was one of their head instructors,
Mm-hmm.
and just taught Taekwondo to big groups of kids and adults, and loved it. Had a great time. So that was sort of from the age to like 18 to maybe 20 or 21, doing that professionally, like teaching.
Yeah.
And it was really good, really good. And ATI, what I really liked about what they did, even though it was traditional Taekwondo, they incorporated a lot of boxing and kickboxing skills into what they were teaching. So even in traditional martial arts, we were still competing in kickboxing matches and learning like applicable, realistic skills
Yeah.
that most traditional clubs won't do.
That's awesome. And from there, I suppose that sort of laid the foundation for what you sort of did after that and with your own school and stuff, right?
Yeah, so from a teaching point of view, I learned how to coach, particularly really big groups of kids in that environment. But my natural progression, I guess, at the age of around 20, I lost interest in Taekwondo and got into kickboxing. And I trained at Progressive Martial Arts in Vic Park, and that was with two guys. So Manfred Bomula, I think is how his name's pronounced, and a guy called Steve Stevenson. And they were both JKD guys, so
Yep.
Jeet Kune Do guys who'd been teaching their blend of mixed martial arts since like the late 80s here in Perth. So they were incorporating everything together, which was really cool. So I learned kickboxing there, did that for quite a while with them, and then was introduced to jiu-jitsu, but didn't take it seriously and didn't really pick it up until more recently.
Yep. Yeah, cool. And when did you decide to open your own club?
So that was a little bit further down the track. So after training kickboxing and jiu-jitsu for a little while, the opportunity came around to open up my own school. And so I opened a school that was primarily focused on teaching kids martial arts, but I wanted to teach something that wasn't traditional. So it was more of like a kickboxing program with like basic elements of grappling and MMA included in it. And so that was really cool. So we had Octagon MMA down in Kelmscott, around that club for a couple of years. And I had a few other instructors come in to teach other parts of the program. So we had a few different black belt instructors coming to teach the jiu-jitsu. We had a few different people come and teach the MMA and the kickboxing. And I primarily just stuck to coaching the kids. And it was really good fun. It was a great lifestyle to be able to just like work, train, coach. And that was all I really did. And that was around the time that we met. Because I was doing most of my training up at Armour. And that would have been 2012, 2013.
Yeah, and at Armour, you were mostly doing the jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah, so at that time, Steve Kennedy was training at out of Armour, or teaching out of Armour, and I was getting coached under him in MMA, and then I was doing the jiu-jitsu at Armour as well. So I got my black belt through Steve and Adam at the old Armour Academy. Yeah, good old Herb Graham. So I was there for a while, and then as things changed, I just kind of was a bit of a gym whore and hopped to different clubs and ended up at MMA 24/7 for a while.
Yep.
And then moved into wrestling. I did freestyle wrestling just exclusively for about 3 years with Alan Landy at Gladiators. And that was a really big turning point for me. It was like just focusing on one thing and getting an understanding of a skill set. And then, more recently getting back into jiu-jitsu the last 2 years and just kind of being a journeyman and enjoying all different aspects of training. Yeah,
that's awesome. Obviously, you had a couple of MMA fights as well.
Yeah, I did. So I just had like 2 amateur fights in here in Perth, just 2 C class rules.
Yep.
And did well in both of them. And enjoyed the experience. It was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done was fighting MMA, just because it was so personally confronting for me to do.
Of course, yeah.
And this is the thing, like, even though I've always been interested in martial arts, it's a fear of violence that got me into it.
Yeah.
And so that fear of violence is still something I've got to work hard to overcome. So I don't actually enjoy competing in MMA. I just do it because it's like you've got to confront it.
Yeah. It's weird, hey, how like it's so rewarding to do something that scares you and sort of overcome yourself in a way. It's super rewarding, and like a lot of people get that even from just competing in jiu-jitsu. They're so glad they did it, even if they lose. They're just like glad they sort of faced that demon, you know?
Yeah.
It's addicting in a way.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole self-development side of it as well, where people get a lot of personal growth out of training. There's guys who come into, you would have seen it, they come into MMA and they come into jiu-jitsu and they're really natural at it. They've got that warrior mindset. They don't care if they get hurt, but they don't tend to stick with it.
Yeah.
I mean, some guys do and they make great champions, but, the guys who are just like the tough natural fighters don't often stick with it because they didn't have to really work for it.
Not getting much from it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas the guys who, it's like a big leap for them to get in the competition, they're the ones who tend to stick around and continue with it further, which I think is interesting.
It is, yeah. And you tend to see big changes in people over time as well. Like over the course of maybe 3 or 4 years, people completely change their personality because they get that confidence, and it really does sort of happen like slowly. You don't really notice it, but then you think back to when certain people started and how nervous and shy they were and reserved, and then what they're like now. It's crazy, like just seeing that sort of change in people, and it sort of bleeds out to the rest of their life as well, and that's super cool to see, you know?
Yeah, I mean, how many stories have you heard about guys who didn't have confidence and then they do jiu-jitsu, they get confidence, they get in shape, and they start meeting all these girls, and like, you know what I mean? Like it just affects their whole life. They start doing better at work, have a better social life because of the club.
Yeah, it's funny, hey?
It's just interesting.
Yeah. It's like they don't get, I don't know, like people have different reasons for starting jiu-jitsu, I guess, but a lot of the reasons around the time I started, people would get into it was because they watch Hoist Gracie compete or whatever, right? But like it ends up, they get so much more from it, but they didn't even, I suppose, count on getting from it, which is cool to see. Like benefits they didn't even realize were right in front of them there start to come in, and that's pretty cool to see. And I can say for sure, like probably 10 of the core guys at Matt Shark have just completely changed from since when they started. They're completely different people for the better as well. So that's the rewarding part of what I find as a coach, is just seeing that change in people. You would have seen it heaps, obviously, with kids as well.
Yeah, definitely through training kids, and particularly kids with behavioural problems that are a real handful for their parents. If they find something like martial arts and they've got it's their thing and they can stick with it, it really does transform them, because they learn the skill of focus and discipline, and they learn how to like channel energy and stuff, and they can then apply it into other areas. That's quite rewarding to see, actually. And it's one of those things that not many other sports can give, I don't think, or I haven't seen. But martial arts is one of those tools where if you do get a child with behavioural issues and they do take to it really well, then it does change the rest of their life. And that's why people, they get on that bandwagon about how jiu-jitsu changed their life and saved them and all this stuff. But it does have that kind of magical thing to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, 100%. I think the thing with jiu-jitsu as well is most nights you're going to probably roll, so you're overcoming that same hurdle every time you go to training. A lot of other styles, I guess, you don't spar 100% every night because you just can't, because you're going to get banged up if it's like Muay Thai or kickboxing or something. But with like wrestling and jiu-jitsu and anything like that, you're going pretty hard most nights, so you're getting that very real confrontation sort of put at you pretty often. It sort of seems to be that sharpens people, over time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool to see, guys like Kev. I remember when Kev started, he was so different. He was still like Kev. He was, funny and had a good sense of humor and stuff. But like,
Yeah.
just seeing how far he's come in such a short time, like how he's so much smarter and just like can think so much clearer and understands things so much better and asks really good questions. And then seeing him progress into a position now where he obviously coaches the kids at Matt Shark and how well he's doing with that role and stuff. It's been like incredible watching that journey. Obviously him going from being a nobody off the street white belt sort of person with a very limited background to seeing him progress to the level he's at now. And he's just a grinder, he grinds, he just comes in 3 times a week, puts the work in, and then he coaches the kids, and just over time that accumulates, and just seeing that change in him and that confidence grow and the skills grow and competition starts to, the techniques start to work for him in competition, he starts to do well there, and then his whole family does it now. So obviously Oz and Luke are competing and doing well, and Kel trains as well, comes in quite often and trains, and just the whole family's been overtaken by this, this whole lifestyle, I guess. The lounge room's matted out, and I guarantee he didn't envision that when he started, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like they're one of those success stories, aren't they? Like they come to the club and then they find this huge sense of belonging, and then everyone's in, the whole family's getting into it, and it's so cool to see. And like I've really enjoyed with all this isolation stuff we're doing, watching the videos of the kids and seeing them get their training in, and Kev training with Kel and stuff, and it's kind of fun.
It's super cool. Hey,
kind of take over someone's life.
100%. It's like it's cool seeing you as well with your dad training as well. That's been cool.
Yeah, it's been really unexpected. He vaguely expressed an interest in it.
Yep.
And I thought it would be good, at least while we can't do anything, I can just start moving around and do some drills with him and stuff. But he's getting into it. And I never thought he'd be the kind of guy, but he's got such a great mind for it. He really thinks critically, and he can solve problems, and it comes quite natural to him, which is which I'm a little bit jealous of, to be honest. But, he's picking it up, and I'm hoping we can get him to his first tip at some point in the next few months. Yeah.
That'd be super cool.
Yeah.
Just seeing those has been really awesome as well. Hey?
What's that?
It's just seeing that's been really cool as well. Like just seeing people's training at home and stuff in general, like what they're getting up to and how they're still training and that. Like I know some of the newer guys like Dennis and Caleb, they're training just like people got set home where they've got some mats and they live together and they're just getting the training in still. So even though there's no class on, they're still getting that work in and they want to progress, and they haven't really lost any motivation whatsoever. It's awesome.
Yeah. And I think you've got to you have to make the most of this time, because you can either do like one of two things. You either watch Netflix and eat pizza, which I will be doing later tonight, but you can also be using the time to be really constructive and like watch heaps of the online tutorials and think critically about your game and start drilling, shadow drilling, and doing situational stuff with a partner or a kid and just like make the most of it.
100%.
Yeah, and that's sort of what I'm trying to do, Yeah.
A lot of people have been putting out some really good content. Hey, I think a lot of the clubs that don't normally produce videos and content, they're starting to get on the train a little bit, because I mean Matt Shark's always done it. We've always produced a lot of video content, vlogs, techniques, et cetera, but I'm seeing a lot more like other clubs that traditionally haven't really bothered with it starting to put some stuff out because of this whole situation, and seeing some really good stuff. Hey, some really cool interesting techniques and stuff from some local people and some people over east and stuff, and it's just kind of bringing that sort of stuff to the forefront a little bit, because mostly when you're watching online stuff, it's going to be like Danaher or someone like a big name, but seeing what other clubs get up to locally has been pretty cool, and seeing the different variations in techniques and styles and ways they coach and things like that. It's been, really interesting. So there's definitely some learning.
I'm actually curious to see what comes out of all this. So like say 3 months from now, we all go back to the gym. I wonder where online's going to play a role in this, because people are still getting value from training at home right now. And I think people are going to incorporate a little bit more of that, or be more open to doing more solo training, or training with like a husband or wife or something at home, and still get good quality rounds out of it. Do you know what I mean?
It's getting
they do it
normalized,
well. Yeah. It's like very supplemental, and it's the kind of thing you can incorporate into your week. Like you can still get your 3 sessions in at open mat or whatever, and then come home and just work on stuff with your missus in your free time. And I think that's where we're going to start seeing more like of this integration between the online and the offline world come together.
100%. I know with Matt Shark as well, we've been meaning to make like an online syllabus for a long time.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
It's such a big goal. Like it's a huge task. You know what I mean? So we've kind of put it off. But now's the time to do it, because it's just this situation's allowed us to have, I guess, the time to be able to do it, because I'm not at class coaching every night. I've got the time, so all right, let's do it. And then once it's done, we've got it there forever. We can add to it, and it's a really good resource for the guys to be able to reference and see, if they can't remember a sweep or a grip or something, they can just look it up. And it's our syllabus, so it's particular to our club, which is pretty cool.
And I think it's going to be one of the best resources for new students as well. So when they come in and they're all overwhelmed and they're not really sure what to do, particularly if you go on YouTube, you get lost in everything. I think having that syllabus is going to make it really beneficial for a brand new white belt.
100%. They get the most benefit for sure, because I think when you're starting, it's very hard. You don't have a filter yet, right? So you go on YouTube, there's a million techniques, and only a quarter of them are probably legit, and you don't really know who to listen to and what to follow and what to watch, and it's pretty overwhelming. The depth of jiu-jitsu as an art form is just crazy. I could spend a day just coaching grip breaks, you know what I mean? So there's so much content to learn. So I guess having that clear path and that clear list of things is something that's been lacking in jiu-jitsu for a really long time, and there isn't really much clarity around what you should be doing when you begin, and just helping clear that up, I think, will give a more streamlined experience for people coming in and allow them to progress in a more natural sort of fashion,
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed a couple of clubs, particularly Champions Gym. I've got them on Facebook, and they're killing it with their online stuff. They're getting really good numbers come to their Zoom classes, and they're posting screenshots of it. And they teach Muay Thai, but there's obviously something in their club culture that's got people buying into it and still doing it.
Yeah,
they're obviously doing something right. So that's pretty cool. And then I'm surprised how many clubs aren't doing anything.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people who are either personal trainers or they run a martial arts school, and they're literally doing nothing. And that concerns me, because if you're not keeping in touch with all these people you've built relationships with, in 3 to 6 months, they may have lost interest, or it's going to be hard for them to get motivation and come back. And yeah, that's a worry.
It's going to be super interesting to see what happens with all this when it sort of blows over, where it lands, where people go. So if they return to training as normal, whether they're way more motivated because they've been able to train, or whether they're so much less motivated that they stop training or change clubs or change styles. It's just one of those things where anyone who has a substantial break from that routine, that sort of breaks that routine, and then there's potential for new patterns, or they could go back to the same pattern. It just depends. And for some people, that's probably a good thing. For some, it's a really bad thing. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Because obviously, because with this time off and only being able to train with my dad, who's done maybe 10 sessions in total, I've been teaching him the stuff I want to work on. So I'm getting him to play things like De La Hiva and Ashi and X-Guard and stuff and he's got no idea, but he's getting into those positions, and I'm working on my counters and defense. And it's given me an opportunity to work on one of the biggest holes in my game, which is guard passing. And that's, it's been really beneficial, at least intellectually. I can start to put it together. Now I'm really keen to get back into the club and actually try it on guys who are good, and to see how much of that I can get away with,
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's productive training, finding a way to still progress. So you're not just teaching him random shit. It's stuff you're going to be able to actually get use from as well. So it makes it mutually beneficial training, which is probably the best outcome, I guess. It's when I roll guys, I normally try to go to places where I'm not that good, or give them a chance to kind of sweep me or something so I can get good training in as well. And I mean, that's the best way to progress, I've found. Like, if you just decided to run through him with your basic stuff, you'd be able to, but there's no benefit to you or him from doing that. So putting yourself in a position where you can work on shit you're trying to get better at, that's ideal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing with him actually, and I think a lot of people might find this interesting. But the two things I've been working on with him is his like attributes. So building up the ability to move his hips and have flexible like internal and external rotation of his hips,
Yeah.
and being able to move off his back. And so we do that with just all those kind of like partner movement drills. So every time we train together, we'll go through maybe 20 minutes of those, and it's like a really good workout for him. And then we only do situationals. We haven't done any like open rolling.
Yeah.
So for example, we'll get into like, I'll get him into X guard and I'll show him like how to sweep me from there. And I'll be like, okay, this is your only objective. Try and sweep me in this particular way with this. And I can work my defenses like that. And it's not perfect. It's not the same as having someone like Maury do it to you.
Yeah.
But it's still an alive training partner with movement, and it's unpredictable. You can still practice stuff and get your head around it.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's where I've been just trying to make the most of it. But for him at the same time, what I've seen is that he's picking up this knowledge in these areas that most white belts don't typically get.
Yeah.
And he's had the opportunity to do situational sparring in these really unique like lanes of learning. And so he's starting to get a good understand of this more like advanced stuff. But it's not really advanced, just things that aren't introduced to white belts straight away.
It's more niche, yeah.
Yeah. So I'd be keen to actually, at the end of this, Dad's like almost like my prodigy, but like bring him into the club, get him training and rolling a little bit, and just to see how he goes with having kind of learnt a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Because I haven't really taught him the typical pathway to learning. Like we haven't really spent much time on guard passing or holding mount or that sort of stuff. That's all important, and we're kind of covering it in a small amount. But I'm more spending time and just like sticking him in positions to try and like challenge me a little bit. So that's
cool.
Yeah, I just wonder how that will turn out.
Yeah, awesome. How's work and stuff going at the moment? Are you guys affected at all, or?
A little bit. So it hadn't been an issue until maybe this week. And a few of the clients I do social media for, their business is starting to just decline a little.
Yeah.
So the conversation was sort of had like, be aware we might have to cut a few hours and all this stuff. But other than that, it's been fine. And it's just about surviving. Hey, jiu-jitsu mindset, man. Just survival mindset and ride the wave.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, it's not been too bad. What about yourself? Do they make you work from home or anything like that?
No. So, I mean, just like our shifts sort of got divided into 2 shifts, and we're kind of isolated from each other, and just precautionary sort of stuff, like nothing too crazy at this stage. But reduced hours, but like I'm back to normal hours pretty much now, like a 40-hour week, and just working from like 5 till 1. So, I mean, I got the afternoon off, and then I have no coaching. So it's been really strange actually having the whole afternoon to myself. It's been like kind of weird, but obviously good. Yeah.
Have you been drilling or doing anything to sort of keep yourself fresh and keep your skills up?
Definitely.
Like, I see you've been thinking a lot, but are you guys kind of doing some stuff at home?
Yeah. So obviously I live with Ryan, so we have mats here. Been training quite a bit. So rolling and techniques and stuff like that. So drilling specific stuff. But also, I injured my hand the other day, so I've been off the mat a little bit from that. I'll be back into it pretty soon. And yeah, just lifting pretty much. I just started a cut again, so I'm cutting right down, hoping that Pan Pacs will be running this year. If Pan Pacs is on, I'll be trying to compete there at either 84 kilos or 79 kilos. So super light for me. So it'll be a big cut. So lifting reasonably heavy in a calorie deficit. It's not been that fun, but it's getting the job done. So, yeah.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
Where do you think the fitness industry is going to go at the end of all this? Do you think we'll have a similar trajectory to like martial arts schools, or do you think like the nature of the fitness industry is going to be changed now?
I think it'll change. Like, I think over the last sort of 6 years, the industry had a pretty good boom, and then it sort of leveled off, and there's like a gym on every corner, right? So this is going to be a catalyst to clean out a lot of those gyms that are like everywhere that shouldn't be there kind of thing. So a bit of a market correction, I think. And a lot of the gyms that are not doing too well to begin with are probably going to get cleared out. And then, you know, a few of the other ones will stick around. But the ones that survive will be the ones that adapt, you know, the ones that have really good books to begin with, or the ones that adapt and, you know, they just do the best with what they can at the moment, make their online stuff, and then integrate that after all this stuff as well. I've seen a lot of interesting stuff lately, like in regards to the online approach. I mean, online PT and online fitness has always been a thing over the last few years anyway, but just the uptick in that obviously has been exponential. And seeing like a lot of different apps and a lot of different takes on their approach to the online presence, and some are doing a lot better than others. And I think it'll be interesting to see, I guess like the same as martial arts, like what happens after this, whether that sticks around and or it dies off, or it becomes an integral part of how people approach fitness. I also think the amount of people that are now self-sufficiently training at home, if they can maintain that behavior, they're not going to go back to the gym as well. So a lot of those people might just cancel. If they've gone out and bought a squat rack, or they've bought barbells, or they've bought all this CrossFit shit or rigs and stuff, and they've outlaid all this money so they can train at home, I think it's unlikely that they're going to go back to training, or we're going to see a massive wave of secondhand gym stuff for sale on Marketplace pretty damn soon.
I'm expecting a lot of people to stick with their own training. And I say that because when I go to the park to train now, just down the road, the amount of people utilizing the park just for like jogging, even using the play equipment to do chin-ups and stuff like that, way more than ever before. Like it's way more. And I think a lot of those people will kind of be self-empowered by this, and they'll go, oh, I could have been doing this the whole time, and training outside is much nicer than training in a, you know, fluorescent lighted gym somewhere. Like obviously it's never going to be the same if your goal is to like add mass or lift real heavy. I don't know how many people have those facilities at home, or if you're looking for specific equipment. But like general population, you just need to do a bit of cardio, a bit of weights and resistance training. Most of them can do that with what they've got at a park or a few kettlebells and stuff. You know? I
think you're on the money, man. Like most people that join a gym, they want to lose 5 to 10 kilos. So that's going to be their goal. You know, it's like they can do that outside. Like it's only the people that want to get bigger or get stronger that need those facilities really. But you know, anything you do in a group fitness class or on the gym floor, you can really do with a little bit of equipment outdoors. You know, people are probably realizing that now more than ever.
Did you see those concrete poured dumbbells that were for sale?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's really interesting. I actually think it's pretty cool. There's something like industrial and grungy about it, where if you had your own like concreted dumbbell set out in the backyard, like that'll be pretty good. But I also worry because a lot of these people are making their own equipment now. Like there's a few things I've seen. So there was like dumbbells made from concrete. But there was also a wooden bench that someone made, and it honestly just looked like a piece of pine. So it was like, it looked classy because it was a wooden bench that was fully adjustable and everything made out of wood. It looked kind of cool. But I don't know how safe that would be if you're like loaded up under, you know, 60, 70 kilos doing pec flies or something. Like I have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a lot of interesting things lately. A lot of squat racks, a lot of interesting looking different barbell setups and weird weight plates and concrete poured different equipment, homemade sandbags and shit like that, and just people's home workouts in general as well, like just heaps of weird shit. Obviously, like you sort of get that in the gym anyway, like people that just don't really have much of an idea doing weird stuff, but seeing everyone's home workouts now has been a bit eye-opening, you know, like just seeing all this different stuff and what they're using to work out with, and some of it's pretty cool, some of it looks pretty dangerous, but I've seen a lot of innovative ways to solve an issue, I guess, you know, like people are using their wheelie bins as a like rack, you know, so putting the barbell with the plates on the wheelie bins to lift off from, and it's kind of cool.
Squat from.
Yeah, it's kind of smart, you know, like once they've realized, because they've been forced to do it, right, they need to lift still, they found a way around it. And then like you're saying, like, are you going to bother going back to the gym if that's all you need, a barbell, which is probably all you do need for a lot of people, you know, like, yeah, interesting for sure.
That's it. Yeah, that's the argument. Then it's worth investing in a squat rack. I mean, I don't know what a squat rack's worth. Maybe $500 or something. I don't know.
About that
Yeah, so that's like the equivalent of a gym membership,
for a year.
for example, like for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you've got that and you can keep it for years and years.
Pretty good investment, yeah.
Yeah. So I see value in it. Like I've always pretty much done all my strength conditioning stuff at home.
Yeah.
And I do it for two reasons. I really enjoy training outside, like barefoot in the backyard on the grass is awesome, or just like down at the local park. And I just don't like gym culture.
Yeah.
So there's something about Globo gyms or just like the machismo bullshit in some of these lifter gyms that I just don't like.
Yeah.
Just don't around it.
It's pretty universal.
So yeah, that's it. So I'd rather just do my own thing. And so I've got a nice little setup with just a big range of dumbbells, kettlebells. I've got Bulgarian bags, battle ropes. I've got sandbags, med balls, all that sort of shit. And that's enough. Like it's enough for what I need, which is just to stay in shape and have a bit of conditioning for jiu-jitsu and training, and that's it.
You can do a lot with a little bit too if you know what you're doing. So that's your advantage as well. You know how to train properly, so you can find ways to train anything you need to train with the tools that you have. You don't need 500 pieces of equipment to train, your tricep or whatever. You can kind of work around all that, Yeah, I'm pretty fortunate. I live with two CrossFitters, so I have, I have a roller, I have an air bike, I have rings, I have a squat rack, I have bumper plates, barbells, slam balls, kettlebells. Like I've got the works here. I only use the barbell really, and maybe the chin up bar, but that's I'm just fortunate that I've got those options at least. When I see something
in your time off.
Yeah. Got 6 months to make it, man.
Yeah, man.
No, but yeah, I'm pretty lucky in that regard, I guess. Seeing a lot of people sort of just, train at home with just, air squats and push-ups. I'm sort of thinking like, okay, I've got it pretty good compared to most people.
Yeah, that's it. I've got an old punching bag here that I've had for ages, and the attachment's broken, so I can't hang it up anywhere.
Yep.
So I've pulled that up and got that as like a grappling dummy. So I chucked that out the back, and I'll use that for just like movement drills and flow drills and stuff, and also for squeeze training. So what I'll do is I'll pick it up and kind of clinch it hard, like isometric squeezes, and just try and work on my squeeze. And then I've got a fit ball as well, and just try and do like guard passing drills with that and balance drills and things. And just try and replicate like grappling as best I can.
That boxing bag stuff's actually legit. Hey, like it's a good way to train. 2009, I did the Abu Dhabi trials and I was training for that. And I had a same deal, like a boxing bag that was just beat up and couldn't hang. And I'd use that to just move around on, like knee ride and go to mount and switch and just like get a workout in. I would set the time for 20 minutes and just keep moving. And I got my fitness up pretty good just from that, It's crazy what you can do if you're resourceful. The point is I was living down south, so I had like no training partners. I had like a shed. That's all I had. So like I was able to achieve like quite a good level of fitness and movement just from what I had, which is just pretty cool. When you put your mind to it, you can actually get a lot of shit done,
Yeah. The other thing that's really handy is like a resistance band, like not a TheraBand, which is thin, but one of like the more heavy duty ones.
Yeah.
Because you can actually do a lot of hand fighting and stand-up grappling drills with it. And I was thinking about even doing like a little video compilation of just like drills that I've picked up from wrestling over the years, like from freestyle when I was doing that, that you don't really see too often in jiu-jitsu, but it's really good for just like working hand fighting, snap downs, throws with a resistance band, like you might have seen in judo training, all that stuff. And that's so easy, and it's like a great conditioning tool. Yeah,
man, definitely. I do that as well all the time at Armour. Like I go up there and there's bands there, and I use that for Uchikomi, practicing my throws and stuff. It's a really good way to get like a lot of reps in, because most partners just won't tolerate you doing 1,000 reps on them. But if you're motivated and you got a band, you can get that work in. You can keep working until you stop. You want to stop. You know what I mean? But if you've got a training partner who maybe isn't as motivated or doesn't have a strong goal, which is quite often the case if you're trying to compete and do well, you want to get your 1,000 throw reps in. Like they're not going to be keen to just sit there and take that. So even post COVID, it's a good amount of knowledge to have. Like, oh, how do I use this band to train this throw, this hand fight, this snap down? how do I develop those things with this tool? You know, it's always good information. To be able to solo train grappling is always a challenge.
Yeah, and it's sort of like part of the bigger question is like, where does strength and conditioning fit into technical training? Because the hardest thing I've always found is to balance the two.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to come to training completely wiped out from lifting.
No.
And then have terrible training. And then it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to get strong, what am I going to do? Is it going to be CrossFit, is in powerlifting, is in kettlebells? Like, what do I need to do? And there's so many different philosophies out there. People tell you don't need to do any strength and conditioning. You should just roll more. And people say, no, you just got to do 3 big lifts. And other people say, no, you got to constantly vary it. And it's just like, it's an impossible question.
Yeah, I think it's always a balance, right? Like people take it too far to one way or the other. Like you get those in the camp of like the SAID principle, like specific adaptation to imposed demand. So they look at like, okay, I'm going to do this movement because it looks like this from my sport. You know what I mean? So they copy a move from their sport and they, I don't know, wrap 20 bands around them and 6 kettlebells and do some weird fucking movement. And it has no, you know, it doesn't help them at all. Or you see even in like big, like NFL conditioning gyms, like guys will be on like a fucking half Bosu ball juggling tennis balls while throwing a slam ball on the ground. It's like, you know, it looks cool and looks like they're doing something, but that person was already an amazing athlete before they were forced to do that drill. It's not helping them with their sport, you know what I mean? So I always look at it like get strong and then figure out how to put that strength into your skills. So like for me, I would just look at like big compound lifts and then some supplementary work, you know, obviously work your grips a little bit, get your heart rate up, move around, and then focus on my other stuff in my technical training, you know. But I found the most benefit to be with a barbell and with kettlebells, really. But, you know, people take that to the other extreme as well, where they go, no, all you need to do is deadlift, and they just do one thing. And they just do 5x5 deadlifts to the day they die, and that's how they're going to train for jiu-jitsu. It's like, it's got to be in the middle, you know?
Yeah, the other argument is that you don't want to do any strength and conditioning that's skill-based. So meaning like kettlebells, club bells, Bulgarian bags, even barbell work, to be honest, it requires a level of skill and learning, particularly stuff with kettlebells. And then that actually takes your focus away from the sport. And so what you should be doing is just spending your time on stuff like running, push-ups, squats that are like reflexive and subconscious. You can just do heaps of reps.
Yes, on the lower end of the skill spectrum, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Olympic lifting is awesome for a lot of sports, right? Like judo, for example. If you can lift Olympic lifts really well, it helps a lot. But Olympic lifting is a really complex technical sport that requires you to now be doing 2 sports to a high level. So it takes you away from your technical training for judo. If you just learn to squat properly and focus on squats or push presses and stuff, you might be able to get those to a good enough level where you can do them reasonably subconsciously but safely, and then focus on your technical training when you do jiu-jitsu. But again, it comes down to the individual and how much skill, learning curve, adaptation, and time they have. Like it's kind of like a individual question to a degree, right?
Yeah, and then how transferable is an Olympic lift? Because, I mean, maybe in judo there's some argument for it, but you're not going to snatch someone over your head. You know what I mean? Like that movement isn't really applicable. Having a strong posterior chain is.
Yes. Yep.
You know, but yeah, like I think there's more specific ways of doing it.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And being said, like I train kettlebells and I do a lot of those lifts like snatches and cleans and stuff, but I do it because I'm interested and I like learning the skill of kettlebells.
And obviously you still.
I don't know. Yeah, like if you had a pro jiu-jitsu athlete come to you and say, oh, I want conditioning, I wouldn't waste my time teaching them how to like swing a kettlebell. Or, well, maybe a basic swing, but not doing any of the technical lifts because it's fucking waste of time.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can get from that you can't get from doing like getting on the roller and just like smashing out 500 meters as fast as you can or anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I've always trained with that method to a degree, like lifting moderate to heavy weights, low reps, but then also just conditioning my ability to breathe comfortably for a longer period of time and just move for a longer period of time. And for jiu-jitsu, that tends to be like the factor, like, can you sustain a reasonable pace for 10 minutes, pretty much? Yeah.
I think I've told you before, but I went to the UK maybe 6 or 7 years ago, And I spent a week there training with a guy called Steve Morris.
Yep.
And he opened the first MMA school in the UK back in the 70s. And it was very similar to like the Gracie method, where they would just have challenge matches and stuff.
Yep.
So his background was, his dad was a boxer, so he learned how to box as a kid. He learned judo and karate, right? And then with those skills, he just put together punching, kicking, and submissions and takedowns, yes. Right? He just had everything.
Yep.
So that was the first MMA that was going on there. And so he's still teaching seminars and stuff now, and he's in his 70s. And one thing that he really advocated was sport-specific training, like really specific. And what he talked about is when you do your training, it's important to incorporate the same mindset that you have in a match. And because things like grappling and fighting require problem solving, you can't approach it. You can't approach your conditioning with the mindset that you will do if you're going to do, say, a maximum lift. So as an example, right, if you look at a power lifter who's going to do their maximum lift, they psych themselves up and get into this extreme, like, see red tunnel vision state.
Yeah.
But you actually can't do that in fighting because you can't solve problems in that state. You lose the ability for prefrontal cortex.
You got to be calm.
You can't think clearly. Yeah. So what he was advocating is when you do your training and in between rounds, you've got to apply the same mindset you would have in competition. So lift heavy, but stay internally calm.
Yep.
And when you recover from a set, don't just collapse on your back and breathe heavily.
I can't stand that.
No, you need to stay composed and get your shit together like you would do if there was a break in the action or in between like matches or something.
Yeah.
And I really like that approach because that's something, the mindset to training is transferable because that's like internal habit. Yeah. And I think that's pretty clever.
Yeah, like I see it all the time with like jiu-jitsu, even guys are super relaxed. They don't tie their belts. They just lay on their back between rounds and they just collapse on that when they're tired. Like I've always had the mentality from different martial arts that I've done in the past. If you're tired, it's the last thing you want to communicate to someone, if I'm dead tired, you will not know it. I could be just about to break and you won't know just because I have that so ingrained in me now. And like, I could feel like I want to collapse, but I'm going to tie my belt, stand up in line, like try to look like I'm got my shit together, And the amount of times that saved me in matches, is unbelievable. Like, I'm probably more tired than the other guy, but I'm a little bit more mentally strong. And he just cracks before me, and I can make him believe I'm not tired, and then I can mentally beat him. Guys that are better conditioned, better athletes, I can beat with my brain. It's been my biggest attribute, just being a bit more mentally strong and a bit more switched on. And that comes from not an inherent thing. It's just the way I've trained for so long that I've just developed that now. And guys that are sort of really good athletes or even like high-level guys, brown belts and black belts, but they don't really have their shit together mentally, you can exploit that to a massive extent. That's like a huge weakness at the higher level, getting in someone's head, That's probably in any sport,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of those things that it's a variable that's in your control.
Yes.
Like you can train yourself to either respond or not respond to certain stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas something like your genetic ability and your explosiveness and strength to some degree,
limited.
Genetics defines a lot of that, and then you're training on top of it. But if everyone at the high level's doing all the training, it's at equal ground. So that internal response, I think, is important to develop. Yeah, and it's the hardest thing to develop, to be honest. It's real hard. I
try to tell guys early on, tie your jacket up between every round. Tie it up when you, how we do metal chases. Like when you go back in the line, tie your gi up and come out like it's a new match every time. And also just be composed. Don't lose your shit. Don't get to the point where you blow yourself out and you're too tired. Just be smart with your energy, And don't put your hands on your hips. Don't breathe heavy. Just try to look like you got your shit together. Breathing through your nose, out through your mouth. Don't heave breaths, it's just stuff you have to start doing to get to a point where it's subconscious, and then you can sort of do it without having to focus on it so much. But the guys that turn off and on, right? So they're on while they're rolling, and then as soon as the buzzer goes, they turn off. They turn on again and then turn off again. You got to stay on the whole training session, you know what I mean? You can turn off when training's over. And even then I would say until you bow out and leave the mat, just keep your shit together,
Yeah.
So it's always the thing I've sort of had, and I don't tell guys as much as I probably should. The guy I'm probably the hardest on is probably Ryan for good reason. But I'll tell him do your gi up, get your hands off your hips, you know, like don't put your hands behind your head and stuff and breathe heavy. Like people should be wondering why you're so fit. You know what I mean? People ask me all the time, like, oh, how are you so fit? I'm like, man, I'm really not. Trust me. It's just like I'm energy efficient and I can hide it well when I'm under stress or tired. Like you won't see me stressed in a match. I could be about to get RNC and I would look like I'm fine, but I'm probably going to get choked. You know what I mean? But it's just,
you have the ultimate poker face. I have to say, out of everyone at the club, are you for sure, like your poker face is, like you can't read you at all.
It's like, it's literally that, right? Like poker. Like I don't want you to know what I'm thinking. You should have no idea what I'm thinking at any time. Expressionless the whole time. Yeah.
First time I ever saw you compete was last year, like live, seeing you compete.
Yep.
There was no difference in your expression before the competition, during the competition, and after the competition. Like you were called up to the mat, in the match, and then out of it. You're exactly the same kind of like blank face.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was
like you said, like you don't want to get, like you see some guys, they perform better if they get hyped up. But that's good for maybe one match and you're completely depleted. Or if you go too calm, if you don't hit any point on that anxiety curve and you're not nervous a little bit, you don't switch on, that's probably more the spectrum I'm in. You underperform as well because you're not like stimulated enough, right? So I try to stay in my natural state of arousal all the time. So I try to stay at that like 5 to 6 out of 10 sort of range is perfect for me because it's the way I roll as well. I have moments where I'll go like extremely fast or powerful, but in general, I'm cruising the whole match, trying to be energy efficient and smooth, you know?
Yeah. I think that's from what I can tell, like that's the difference between, say, a black belt and maybe a really good purple or brown. You know, they may have the same technical skills, but they haven't got that tactical stuff yet.
Bang on the money, man. Bang on the money. It's the biggest thing I've noticed. Even at the higher level, at black belt versus black belt, some guys that are definitely like better than me, I can beat them because of other things that are outside of like the physical part of jiu-jitsu. Whether it's strategy or mind games or just being mentally more switched on, or faster at thinking, you can exploit situations and capitalize quicker than they can adapt to it. Even though they're physically better, you can put them in bad spots because you can outsmart them, you know? So that's the cool thing about jiu-jitsu as well. If you can use your brain, you can always find a way to win.
That's it. And the only way you can address those things is in the training, and it's got to be sport specific. And that's why doing something like Metal Chasers, which is so, I think it's pretty unique to the club. I mean, I know a lot of clubs do situationals, but I would say that from what I've seen and a few clubs I've trained at, like it's pretty good in terms of like what you can get out of it. Cause it's not just free rolling.
Yeah.
There's always that like situational specific aspect to it. And it gives you a chance to practice all those things.
Yeah.
And even like the times where we've started, or before we went on isolation, right? We did that dual meet. Remember we like had the students together and you were refereeing, and it gave everyone the chance as if they were doing like a little interclub. But this is the thing, everyone got nervous. People forgot their shit. They forgot basic moves. They were making mistakes, and they could address that in the training and have that experience in like a completely safe environment where it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. You got to create
it's
that.
super important. Super important. Yeah.
The thing I like about Metal Chasers the most is a few things happen in jiu-jitsu gyms that I've noticed culturally that I never liked, right? One of the things is you can't ask a higher rank to roll, which I think is complete bullshit because like how are you supposed to get better if you can't roll better guys and they want to refuse to roll you because they either don't like you or they're scared of getting submitted by you or something, who knows? So you get these higher ranks with their egos and stuff that just deny people to be able to roll them. Never liked that. And I never liked that certain people would duck people, right? So like in my past, I would make eye contact with someone and they would look away and you can tell they don't want to roll you. So you don't ask them because you're like, you know what I mean? So you get this weird thing going on. You get these weird like different pulls and pushes of tension within the gym. I never liked that. So Metal Chasers, you're in the line. When you come out of the line, you're rolling the person who's free no matter what. So whoever walks out of that line is who you're going to roll, whether they're a higher rank or lower rank, whether you don't like them, whether you like them, whether you don't want to roll them or you do want to roll them, you have to roll them, right? So it takes away that artificial bullshit and it makes you just fight who's in front of you, which is the best thing you can do for competition, I think, because you can't control your opponent. And a lot of the time you can't control how heavy they're going to be, how old they're going to be, how fit they're going to be, how good at jiu-jitsu they're going to be. You can't control all of these factors. So that's where nerves come from. If you just roll the guys that you like and you're comfortable with, how's that going to serve you in competition? Probably not too well. So, you know.
Yeah, and I think that transfers culturally as well into like the culture of the club. So it kind of goes both ways. But I think the reason we have good camaraderie and culture is because of something like medal chases that breaks down everyone's egos, and there's like, it's non-political in the sense that people aren't getting like loss of face or anything if they get tapped out. No one's bragging about tapping out a, you know, brown belt or a black belt. Like, no one cares.
Exactly. And it's like, everyone's going to get got, you know?
And that's the thing about situational training, is you can still be in a bad position. Like when we do like EBI rules, you know what I mean? The guy's got your back and got hooks in, and even if you're really proficient, you're starting in a really bad position and you probably get tapped out a lot of the time, you know?
So many guys I know at purple belt have like a sick guard, but as soon as the guard gets past, they're not that great, right? So like those guys get too far on their skill set of having a guard. So you got to take that away from them and make them work on getting out of side control. So how you do that is you make them start from bottom side. And same thing with like, let's get a big, strong white belt. He's going to start on your back now. Even if you're a purple belt, that's going to be a challenge. But he might never get to your back if you don't let him get there. But medal chasers will make you have to deal with that problem. So you can't just get by on your fundamentals. You have to work specifics as well. And that's how you get better, you know?
Why don't you think clubs incorporate that style of training? Or probably to the same degree that we do?
Tradition. They've always open rolled. And a lot of clubs aren't competitively focused, whereas Match Hockey is. Isn't. More than other clubs it is. But it's still like a pretty general sort of club. Like you get probably half-half, which is a higher ratio for most clubs. We still cater to people that don't compete, but we have a lot of competitors per capita. And a lot of clubs are 80% non-competitors. So why would they do specific comp training when no one really cares what sweep and what advantage and blah, blah, blah. They just want to know basic jiu-jitsu. Okay, let's just roll, you know? So it makes sense, I guess, but a lot of it's tradition, I feel like. It's just the way it was always done. You do the technique class, you do 3 techniques, okay, let's roll, home time. Whereas match life, I think I've always not been afraid to, if I'm wrong, if I feel like I'm wrong, I'll change it pretty quickly, you know? If I'm asleep in the middle of the night and I wake up in a hot sweat, like, fuck, all right, I should have changed that drill. I'll change the next day, you know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking about it all the time. And the reason I have fed more and more into that side of my thinking is because I'm seeing the results from it. I'm seeing a positive outcome. So then I'm doubling down every time because I can see how to improve. And I'm noticing the guys that come to medal chasers are getting very good at rolling, more so than if I just let them go and do what they want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The interesting thing with situational training is it's something that's done a lot in freestyle wrestling.
Yeah.
They've never shied away from it. And I've noticed, there's something about the influence of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, probably because it comes from a Brazilian lineage. We get some of the Brazilian culture with it as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's probably like the tradition and the respect and all those kind of things. And there's just the cultural elements, right? Whereas like it's more westernized freestyle wrestling. So they're innovating all the time. They're doing situationals, and we're kind of getting a more westernized approach to it. But yeah, like it's something we've always done in wrestling, and most schools will start from bad positions and that kind of thing. And that's the only way you can build up good athletes.
It's actually like
Askren said, their best move. Yeah.
Like Askren was saying on Rogan, he was saying about how, like, just think about it. Imagine if jiu-jitsu clubs trained like wrestlers. It's pretty much what we kind of try to do at Match Life to a degree. We don't train as intense during the technique portion. But when I was in America, I trained with some wrestlers, and just the intensity that they train at is so much higher. And you might be doing one particular arm drag, just the movement of an arm drag, but that's the lesson, and it's an hour, and it's reps left and right, and again and again and again and again and again, and it's boring and it's not fun, but people get really fucking good at it in that time. Yeah. And that's just the shit you need to be able to do and switch your mind off or on, I suppose, and do that work. And the guys who get those quality reps in training are the ones that get really good, right? Because some guys want to have a laugh and they're there for social reasons, which is fine. If you're there for a social reason, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're trying to get good, you need to get those reps in. So you can't have that relaxed approach. You need to be able to switch out of that, I suppose, Brazilian kind of chilled, relaxed sort of mentality and be able to go like, I'm here to work now and put those reps in, you know? I don't mind talking with my partner when I'm drilling, but we have to be working at the same time. I've always had that mentality. I'd rather not talk or just talk very little bit, you know? But some guys just want to talk the whole time. And if they're both there for social reasons, I don't really mind, you know? But if you're trying to get good at jiu-jitsu, it's the same as wrestling, I guess. Like you just got to be able to put your head down and get the work done, you know? It's a trap.
Yeah, a friend of mine from Perth, he's a wrestler from Perth, and he got a scholarship to wrestle in college level in Iowa over in the US, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when he went there, at the college level, they expect you to know all the technique already.
Yeah.
So the training sessions are literally strength and conditioning or just live rounds of wrestling or situationals, and that's it. There's no like, here's this move, here's a double leg. There's very little of that.
Yeah.
Because that technical side has already been developed over years through like the high school system.
You're there to work, not to learn shit.
Yeah.
Much, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a different mindset. Like they're there to pick up the skills. So when they get to college, it's just all about getting the mat time in.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And then they compete nearly every weekend.
Yeah.
So it's really intense.
That's the way to do it, man. Like if you've got a way to set up that situation for yourself, whether it's jiu-jitsu or wrestling or whatever, it's the way to go. Like it's clearly getting results for a lot of people that do follow that sort of system. It's worked for us at Matt Shark, not obviously not to the same extent, but we do a similar thing. Like we try to make the guys like when it's medal chasers time, I try to limit the guys from like coaching each other and stuff. If a white belt asks like, oh, what did you do there? I don't want them to be doing that. I want them to just be focusing on just the training. There's a time for like learning new shit, and there's a time for just like putting the work in. So trying to like maintain that's a big part of my job, and it's why a lot of the time when I'm rolling, even I'll stop and look and see who's talking to who and who's doing what, so I can monitor those behaviors and try and change them.
Yeah.
It's just you got to be, as a coach, you have to be on all the time. You can't just focus on your role. That's why sometimes I'll stand out so I can see what's going on. But yeah, I found that to be a bit of a challenge. Like you can't just think about the role you're having. You have to like watch everyone and watch the white belt who's about to knee this chick in the head, and watch the guy over there who's like trying to coach someone else a completely wrong armbar, and the guy who's going off the mat every round for a drink, and just you got to know who's doing what. I'm probably a little bit hyper alert to that stuff, but I think my ability to notice those things and constantly sharpen the edges off has been what's made things a bit. Everyone's progressed a bit faster because of that, because I've cut those behaviors early, and over the course of time that compounds, and then in competition you see guys that are a bit more they have a bit more of an acute skill set because they've been pulled up early on things they were probably doing before. Like a lot of clubs I see like open rolling, that's how they train with complex open roll, right? And then you'll see guys that are about to compete in like 2 weeks time, and they're trying to learn a new move, or they're trying to do like some crazy technique, and then they just go off the mat all the time for a drink, and they do whatever they want to do. What they're definitely not doing though is getting ready to compete, because those things aren't going to happen. You're not going to get a drink every 2 seconds in your roll. You're not going to pull off the new move you learned last week. You're not going to be able to rest whenever you want. So, it's like, fuck, you got to put the work in. You got to start from bottom mountain. You got to start from someone on your back. You just got to work, do the stuff you've been taught. Don't try and learn new shit 2 weeks out. Like it seems like common sense, but it's just like that relaxed nature leads that sort of stuff to happen, that freedom of reign a little bit.
It's the relaxed nature. That's what I'm saying. That's the inherited part of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
For sure.
It's chill. You know what I mean? And that comes with pros and cons.
Yeah, it's relaxed.
Likewise, a Japanese approach to training comes with its pros and cons. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Japanese approach, much more regimented, and it's just reps, sharp reps. And then the Brazilian approach has always been show up 20 minutes late, in your flip-flops, and, do 5 reps of the technique and then just roll. Like that's the way they do it. And don't get me wrong, they've obviously had phenomenal results. And a lot of the guys now, they don't train with that mentality. They're obviously training different methods. But that's allowed jiu-jitsu as an art to become expansive and continually evolving, which is the positive side. The negative side is it's limiting potential for a lot of people to get good fast because they're not putting in as much work as they could be in that time. And the guys that I watch that like to rep, again, I'll use Kevin as an example. Kev just gets the work done. If I show a technique, I can tell he doesn't even really like the technique. He may not ever even use it. He'll do the reps. Yeah. He'll get the reps in. He'll do them sharp, and he'll collect the technique. And he might not use it again later. He might actually end up using it. It doesn't matter. He's going to just work, and then add it to the arsenal. And then you get some guys that just like fuck around and laugh and have a good time and that. If they're not competing, that's all they want to do. That's fine. I don't really care. But you see the difference in their trajectory over time. The people that can grind and be consistent just over the course of a year, it's crazy where they end up as a disparity.
Yeah, I guess it's that add up the collection of reps.
It's not noticeable. Short term.
Yeah. So where do you see technical training fitting into the picture? Because like dead training where people are learning technique and going very deep into technique, where does that fit into your system?
Lately, it's been adapted quite a lot to like a 2-week cycle. So I've gone to like a balance of teaching concepts, but then trying to give very strong context to what's going on. So instead of going like, here's an armbar, here's another one, here's a sweep, and doing that sort of shit, I've gone to like, all right, let's look at Kimuras. What makes a Kimura work and why do we use it? All right, now here's some techniques that illustrate that. And it gives that context of what we're doing and it makes the concept stick in their head. And then you'll see them when they roll, they'll all of a sudden find the Kimura shape and they find a way to use it and it starts to actually work for them, you know? Whereas in the past, if I show 3 very particular techniques and there's a lot of key details like get the wrist here, turn the hand this way, move your hips this way, it gets very confusing. But if you learn the concept, then it helps a lot. But if you just learn the concept, there's no technical aspect to it, you'll forget the concept. So it's like, here's the concept, here's some techniques that illustrate the concept well that you'll remember, and then tie it together. And then from there, I found the white belts are my best example. Like I can show a pretty new person a Kimura. If I just show them the concept, they're not going to remember it. If I just show them the technique itself, they'll kind of remember the shape, but they'll forget what they're even trying to do with it. If you show them like the concept and then context, they'll be able to do the Kimura. Like Caleb, right? So Caleb did 2 weeks of Kimura. Then he competed for the first time and he Kimura his opponent because he had a strong idea of what he was trying to do. He didn't remember every little step. I guarantee he didn't think in his head, okay, step 1, get the wrist. Step 2, bring my arm over here. Step 3, from the hip. He didn't think like that. He just would have gone, there's a Kimura and grabbed it because he was familiar with the position because he did 2 weeks of this is a Kimura, this is a Kimura, this is a Kimura. Here's how you do it. Bang, bang, bang. So I found that to be a little more of an accelerant for the lower level guys. The higher level guys, I think we need to go into more of a technical point by point sort of approach. At the blue and purple belt level, it's like correcting fundamental errors and then improving things that are low hanging fruit. So I could say to you, like Lance, like, man, that triangle is perfect, but you have to make sure you unhook the leg there because he's going to stand up and get out. If you don't do that one detail, that move's not going to work. So then you'll learn to adapt that. And then I'll also say, oh, and by the way, for you, I think you'll be able to get this choke from here as well. This works for you, I reckon. So give it a go. And then you'll be able to add that in whether it works for you or not, you know? So being able to do that at the higher level, I think is the difference. And a more catered approach.
Yeah. So the challenge becomes how do you do that with a big group? You know what I mean? If
you've very tough. Yeah, very
30
tough.
or 40 people on the mat.
So what I normally do is I teach everyone like their white belts, and then the upper belts get less out of it, but they still get quite a lot, I found. And then as it gets bigger, splitting off the class into color belts only, or focusing on those very small technical aspects in a smaller group, you know, like whether it's like competitors only training or advanced guys only training or whatever it is, you know, or even one-on-one training with a lot of the guys. But as the general class runs, I've found that hammering home those concepts and then showing the techniques based around the concepts has helped quite a lot, even with the upper level guys, mostly with the newer guys, obviously. But every now and then it'll be like, someone will say to me, like a blue belt will say to me, oh shit, I never even knew why we did that. Or they'll say like, oh, I didn't even know that detail. That helps so much, you know, because people miss things, right? So like they might get to blue belt, but they missed the week, the 1 week last year we did hip bumps, you know what I mean? So they come back and like, yeah, I know hip bump. Oh, I didn't realize that detail there or whatever. So they always get something out of it. But I think the white belts get more out of it.
Yeah, I found with coaching kids, because the attention span's very short, you can't go into detail. And if you do, they revolt, like they'll just not behave.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I'll connect this together, but coaching kids, you've got to just be real simple, give basic steps, and then get them drilling straight away, right? And then what I found is that you can give individuals the 1% stuff they need to go and work on. And you can progress people as fast as they're understanding the concept.
Yes, yep.
Or as slow as they need to. So what I might do when I was teaching kids, I'd say, okay, we'll stick with Kimura. Here's a Kimura. Here's the 3 things you need to do. Grab the arm over, under your legs, whatever. And that'll be it. And I'll get them going. And then individually, I'd go around the group and be like, okay, you need to work on this now, work on this now, work on the hand position, work on finishing, cut the angle, da-da-da. And that speeds up learning. And I found it was the same for adults anyway, because, you know what I mean? Like you can go into more detail with adults, sure, but at
Not
the
much
end of the
more.
day, it's the individual. Yeah, it's the individual who needs the attention and how fast they pick it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
I found at the start of that 2 week cycle, I'll normally do like an overview, like a 10-minute talk about this move. And you lose a lot of people, obviously, but the ones that can pay attention, they understand the entire objective of the next 2 weeks. And then from there, same sort of deal, right? I'll show a technique. I'll go, okay, here's a Kimura. This one's done from top side control. I'm going to show you how people normally do it and why that's kind of shit, and how it used to be done and why that's kind of shit. And I'm going to show you how I think it should be done. We're going to come out here to the power line. I'm going to put our head toward the hip. Going to stay on a diagonal angle, get the wrist, bend the arm, blah, blah, blah. And I'll hammer that home a few times, and then I'll let them drill. Then I'll go around and find, same deal. I'll find the people that are doing that way too easily. They've got it down so many times. They've got it so good, they're not even benefiting anymore from the drill. And I'll add a part to it. Okay, now what you can do is, if this goes wrong here, you can add this in. Then I'll go back to the person who's getting it completely wrong, and I'll reiterate those points to them, you know? So very similar sort of approach. I didn't consciously think of that too much, but I sort of observed that's how you have to sort of do it, right? You got to go around, if it's a bigger group especially, you got to go around and cater to people. Because you're going to, especially on my mat, you've got people that are really new and people that have been there like 3-4 years is generally the gap in skill and knowledge. So it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all approach, unfortunately, until I can split the classes.
Yeah.
Then it'll get interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it certainly will be, like, once we can do all that.
I've done it a little bit where I've, within the class, I've split out the classes at the same time, but I've split out the blue belts and I've gone, all right, today we're doing knee bars. And I've just showed them something different. And the response I get is always really positive, or I show a particular guard pass that's a bit more advanced. And because it's new to them and it's more technical, like, okay, here's the 5 steps, don't even show a concept, just we're working this one pass now, and give them something new that's a bit more hard, like a bit harder, more challenging to get down, they typically really take to it. So when we do have those color belt classes, I guess, it's going to be really interesting to see how much more of a progression we get on those guys that are hungry for that newer stuff, you know? Even though they're
I think there's something to be, I definitely agree. And I think there's something to also be said for having the whites and the colors together as well, because it's almost like they upskill faster. You can put white belts with colored belts, you know, where possible. And I know that the wrestling sessions I teach, I always try and upskill everyone really quick by getting at least the drilling done with a colored belt and a white belt, because by the end of it, the white belt will have a good understanding and the blue belt would still, you know, get the drills in that they need. And it just speeds up like the learning rate of the whole group.
I've always found that too. Like you get 2 new white belts start together, they typically want to train together. So I try to get them away from that as soon as I can, because that becomes a bit of a safety net within that cultural sort of group, and they don't tend to assimilate into the culture that well, but also they don't tend to get much better because they've got 2 guys who's got no idea, right? So you try and get 2 blue belts or 2 purples or whatever you can, partner them up, and that learning curve's really quick, because let's say I get 2 new white belts and one goes with you, one goes with Maury, and we're doing double legs, they're obviously going to pick it up a lot quicker if you guys can show them, no, that's wrong, here's how you do it, fix that, fix this, fix that, okay, cool, bang, bang, bang. Whereas when I'm walking around the mat, I can't look after 20 white belts, but I can look after 20 white belts if they've got blue belt partners or purple belt partners. It becomes much easier because I don't have to worry about half of them, right? Because they've got decent partners who can show them little errors and fix little things, you know.
Do you think there's value in a white belts only class where you start really breaking it down even further, basics and just for only beginners?
Yes, I do. Logistically, it's a little tough because, like, I mean, yes and no. Like, there's a huge variance even in white belt, right, in jiu-jitsu. So you might get someone who's, okay, so they're both white belts. One's been there 2 years, nearly a blue belt. One's been there 2 weeks and they're off the street, right? What you teach those people is very different. I teach one of them like a blue belt and I teach the other one like a 6-year-old. You know what I mean? So it's just like a massive difference in how you approach it, right? So I think where you would want to probably take it is a fundamentals class, which is like a 0 to 6 months experience rather than the belt level. I suppose the belt's a good guide of skill, but it also is just like a arbitrarily defined grade, right? So 0 to 6 months is a good generalization of a person who's at the fundamental level. So that, I think there'd be a lot of benefit in that, like a 0 to 6 months sort of level. and it would sort of be aimed at getting them to their second tip, you know?
Yeah.
I think beyond second tip, you're sort of on the downhill to your blue belt. So things change a lot, you know?
Yeah, because once you're 3 months in, you get the basics.
Yeah, you do.
You know the names of stuff. You know positions.
You know the objective and what you're trying to do at least.
Yeah.
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 You might not be able to do anything, but you kind of know what you want to do. You don't want to give your back. You don't want to get mounted. You want to bend the guy's arm. He's trying to bend yours. You kind of get the picture, right? By that stage. So I think like once you're about that far in, you're not going to get very quickly beaten by a lot of people. You're at least going to put up a fight and have a bit of an idea of what's going on. But the real benefit is anyone sort of in that, I would say 0 to 3, 0 to 6 month range, they could benefit a lot from a further breakdown of the very fundamentals. Like, let's work on getting out of bottom side control in detail. Like, yeah, it can be a bit tedious too, like for some people, right? So jiu-jitsu, I try and make it fun because a lot of the reason people keep coming back is because they enjoy their training. If I start to be a bit of a technique nut, you're like, all right, we're going to do 6 months of just getting out of side control. Everyone will be awesome at it by the end of the 6 months. The 3 students I have left will be killing competition, but like it's just not practical, you know? Like with Ryan, for the first 4 years with Ryan, I didn't show him any submissions. All I showed him was how to get out of stuff and how to move, which has benefited him greatly now. He doesn't get submitted very often and it's very hard to keep in one place. But adding that submission stuff in later has worked as good as well because it's not as there's not as much to submissions as there is to moving and escaping things. So I built him the way I think you should be built if you didn't care about enjoying jiu-jitsu, which you can't take that approach to the general public. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a certain person to embrace that. You know what I mean? Like he was self-motivated as well, and he'd do whatever to get better.
We just have that relationship where I can just tell him like, this is what you need to do to get better. It's going to be shit. Sorry, let's do it. That kind of thing. Whereas if you don't know that well, you can't just tell them like, because people come in, right? White belts this is a classic archetype for a white belt. They come in, jiu-jitsu is amazing. They see this cool shit. Like, fuck, this is awesome. I want to learn all this stuff. They get carried away. They want to learn the secret techniques, right? They want to learn the rubber guard and they want to learn all the and Garambolas and shit, right?
Arm bars,
yeah, man. Like it's just, they get way more out of cross collar jokes, but Eddie Bravo has fucking showed them all this shit they've seen on YouTube, and that's what they want to learn. And you can't stop them from doing that. You have to give that to them a little bit because you want them to keep enjoying the art and stuff and seeing the big picture. But at the end of the day, cross-collar jokes work and they're readily available. You got to master those fundamentals to some degree, So people tend to come back. They tend to go in that cycle of wanting to accumulate techniques as much as they can. New techniques, new guards, new submissions, new arm bars, new leg locks all the time. Then they hit that later stage of blue belt, early purple, and they start going into their game. So they have enough fundamentals. They go back to that a little bit. Then they go down the hole of like, okay, I'm a guard passer, or I'm a whatever, I'm a this, I'm a that, and they start identifying their own little game a little bit. Whereas that white belt and even blue belt, guys just want new shit all the time. They want new techniques. You show them the same technique 2 nights in a row. It's like, what the hell is this? I didn't come here to learn this shit again. It's like, I already know this. Like, but you don't. You know what I mean? You could do hip hop speed for 10 years and not know it. You know what I mean? Knowing it's subjective. It's like, to what level do you know it?
So at the level you're at now, what keeps you going and what are you learning? And I guess you've got a different perspective to, like, we're both looking at the same thing, but I'm a blue belt, you're a black belt. What are you looking at and how are you improving?
It's been interesting for me, man. Like, I've always tried to do everything well, which is a challenge, right? So I've always tried to be a great coach, a good mentor, a good referee, a great competitor, like all these things at once. It's extremely time consuming and taxing mentally, physically and all that. But obviously I love it or I wouldn't do it, right? But I think the biggest thing is just that balance, right? Balancing all those things that aren't really that related. So it's quite a different thing when your social outlet, your mental outlet, your physical outlet, and your business is all jiu-jitsu, but they're just different sort of parts of the same seesaw. So it's more just that balance. And I think my own physical training for competitions, like most of my opponents have a huge advantage on me in the sense that they don't run schools full time, right? So they're just able to train. Massive advantage, because if I just focused on training, I would be a lot further along competitively than I am. So I think that's the advantage they have. But at the same token, I wouldn't change what I'm doing because I have big goals in all those directions. But for me, competitively, my comp prep hasn't been ideal for any of my comps as of late. Having said that, 2019, I was able to achieve my goal for the year, which was to win a black belt major. So I was able to win the Machado Nationals in the gi black belt division. So that was pretty cool. I was able to achieve that goal. Just having that sort of stamp on that black belt to go, I'm a black belt, but also I'm a champion black belt in competition at a national level is huge for me. So that's been a good feather in the cap to just solidify that. Just that sort of legitimacy to that belt, you know. But then also producing so many guys that have done really well and that are progressing really well is another big feather in my cap. Like having guys that are from my club, from Matt Shark, that wear the rash guard, wear the patch, and that are out there representing. You know, that's a huge sense of pride for me as well. That's the majority of them putting that work in, but there's just having them associated with me is a big deal. And then lastly, business-wise, just seeing probably the thing I'm most proud of is the culture we have and maintaining that. And any cancer I see, just cutting it out quickly and constantly molding that culture to be to the point where it is now, where it's very self-sufficient and very self-monitoring. So if anyone's ego gets out of control or anyone starts behaving weirdly, it gets stamped out super quick. No bullshit happens, you know. And I guess it's like you said with that gym culture, we just don't allow any of that sort of stuff to go on. And the group doesn't allow it. I don't mean me, the group doesn't allow it, you know. So, people that build themselves up too much, they get knocked down quick, and that's how it should be, you know. Yeah.
It's very unique. It really is. Like, it's hard to build a culture, you know, and to build a good one at that. And I think what you've got, like, you guys got to be proud of what you've both done to achieve that, you know, with a group of people. And I think the challenge you're going to have moving forward is how do you do that with 100 people?
Yeah, scale, yeah. Always the way. Yeah. But I think the way you do it is we've done a lot of work at the start to make the culture what it is, but it's overtaken us now. The culture is now like Maury, Kev, you, that's the culture now. It's all of us doing that, right? So there's more of us now to scale it. So when there's two of us, to build a culture of 40 good people is hard. But now we've done that. So building a culture of 100 good people is easier with 40 good ones. You know what I mean? So as long as we don't slip up and let too many guys that are not good people stick around, I think we should be okay. But it's constantly monitoring it, right? And then as it gets bigger, obviously there's challenges that come with that. And then at the stage where you open multiple schools, then it's going to be a whole different beast, you know? Yeah, for sure. No, it's been a crazy ride, man, but things are going super well. And I mean, obviously apart from this COVID stuff, and once that's cleared up, I think there's going to be some big steps for Matt Shark, and just super excited to see where everyone goes with it and just the journey everyone's on, you know? Like I'm pretty focused on my own competitive results and goals and stuff, but I'm super invested in the journeys of my students as well. And I get a lot of probably equal amount of gratification from seeing one of my students up there on the podium. So that's probably why I tend to have such a draw to that balance. I'll never lean one way too much.
I think that's it. I think everyone's got to define what they're doing with their training. You know, they're competing, if so, to what degree, and do they have realistic expectations on their goals? Because like in your situation, like you're running the school, you're coaching, you're refereeing, everything, you know, you're making content. That's a lot of shit to balance. So you've got to have realistic goals around that. Otherwise it's just, it'll lead to depression.
Exactly. Yeah, it's too hard.
It's unrealistic. We won't be able to achieve it. But I think that's true for everyone. I think it really is. If people are only training one day a week because they work, you know, 80 hours a week in some high flyer job, well, there's only a certain level of achievement they're probably going to make, and they've got to be realistic with that. But it's not wrong. It's just got to be realistic. Yeah,
and it's like I'm lucky now. I'm very fortunate at the stage we're at now. We're sort of on that second level where I've got Maury, yourself, and Ryan, even Kev, to really help the guys develop, where I'm not constantly having to develop each and every person myself. So I've got a big team around me now that's helping, you know, even guys like Josh Fern and like a few guys that just sort of help out, and Mick and et cetera, you know, that will jump in where needed to help me get shit done. So by no means is it me maintaining this balance by myself. It's guys that are allowing me to be freed up to be able to do other things. Like it was crazy, right? Like the end of last year, I took 8 weeks out where I mentally checked out of Matt Shark, where I said, I'm going to focus on competing for 8 weeks. So I was able to win SGT gold in no-gi and then Machado's gold in gi within that sort of little period there, because I was able to focus on what I was doing, and that's all I was worried about, right? Whereas normally I start thinking about comp when I get on the mat because I'm too busy doing other shit, right? But having that little break was only allowed by having Ryan and Maury and yourself and other guys that could pick up the slack for me, you know? So at that level now where I have that benefit, where I can start to not put expectations on myself, but I can allow myself to be a little more ambitious with my own goals without getting too crazy. I can free myself up enough to compete and focus on traveling a little bit more. And it's cool for the club because I can bring back significant medals to the club that build the profile of the club, you know. And it's good to have a coach that is out there in the community competing and showing their face and doing things, you know.
Yeah, it's inspiring, I think, for a lot of us to have leaders and people who are like really focused on getting better.
It would do
because it helps lift you as a student as well. Like there's energy in the room, everyone's focused to get better and work hard and all this stuff, and naturally it picks everybody else up. And it's just a cool kind of competitive environment to be around. And I really, I enjoy that, even though I'm not actively competing.
Man. This, you know, same sort of thing though. Like you probably don't realize the influence you have. Like even when you compared to SGT last, and you know, the few of the guys that pulled out late in those comps, right? They're like, oh, I want to do it. And then they're like, oh, no, I better not, kind of thing, and pull out. So there's always a few that do that. But then they see the videos of you guillotining people and throwing them over your head and shit. And then like, oh, fuck, I wish I went in there and did that, you know? So it is inspiring, you know? Like guys will see like you said, those leaders, like no one's a retired competitor at Match Shark. All the guys at that leadership level are all sort of out there raking in medals. So it's like, well, I should listen to this person, not because of what they say, because of what they do. And they're clearly out there doing the shit that they're showing and what they're talking about. Like, I don't teach techniques that I don't use and know a lot about, right? Whereas you go to some schools and there's some black belt there who got his black belt in 93 and he knows all the Gracies and he's so clicked up and all that. You know, he speaks with a slight Portuguese accent and he's got, you know, just like the most sort of quintessential jiu-jitsu club out there. But he hasn't competed in 20 years and all he shows is close guard techniques. He doesn't really have his hand on the pulse, you know? So I think it's a big statement to be able to say, like, if you come to Match Shark, where this shit I'm showing you, I can show you a video of me doing this in competition from a month ago. I can also show you an example of one of my students doing this from a competition 2 months ago. Like I can double down on what I'm saying because I can prove that it works. And I'm fortunate enough to have Metcalf in the same boat, right? So Adam Metcalf will show some techniques that I'll be like, I would never use that technique. I don't rate it. It won't work for me, right? But he'll go into competition. He'll fly to Japan. He'll choke 2 guys with it. He'll get the medal and he'll come home and he'll hang the medal up in his gym and go, that thing works because I did it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you can't really refute. It's like to a degree you might not rate that technique or what he's doing, but you're like, well, he kind of just won with it. So, you know, And he's a doer. You know, he's 50 plus and he's out there winning titles internationally. It's like, well, you got to have some sense of pride compared to some coaches who haven't walked on the competitive mat for 15 years, you know?
Yeah. And that's what I like seeing. I find guys like that quite inspirational who are, 50s onwards and they're still getting their hands dirty. Even if it's just jumping on the mat and rolling hard with everyone and being able to hold their own. Like, I really like that because that's the goal. You know, you want to be the guy who's still doing it at that age and being competitive with all the younger guys and all that. That's So for me anyway, it's where I'd like to be. Yeah,
man, definitely. And the art it develops so quickly, right? So like if you dip out, it's like you're going to get left behind. So a lot of guys, that happens to them. They check out mentally like, oh, I've competed a few times. I'm a black belt. Oh, I'll just stop now and just teach a little bit and fuck around. Metcalf's always been active and competing and doing everything. And he kind of knows what's up, you know, he's not out of touch with new techniques and things. So he's like a modern black belt to a degree. Like he still understands what's happening, you know? Something to be said for that. Like once you hit black belt, it's like, there's no definitive thing really. It's like, he's a black belt, you're a black belt. There's black belts. Then there's black belts that are winning internationally, like international level competitions in their 50s. You know what I mean? It's a big difference.
Yeah. I was watching some not old flashbacks, but I was watching the highlights at ADCC, like from last year or the year before or whatever. That's what I do in quarantine time now. And it's cool to see there's still some guys who are in their 40s who are doing really well at ADCC. Like they're, you know what I mean? They're keeping up with these 24-year-olds, 25-year-olds, and they're medaling still.
Man, yeah. It's, jiu-jitsu is probably one of the only sports where, age leaves everyone behind, right? Time gets everyone at some point. But to a degree, if you're smart with how you train and you're a very technical grappler, you can actually be competitive for a long time. Even guys like Cyborg is only just getting surpassed now, and he's getting on, and he's still
So
out
he's
there.
got to be 40, eh?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Compared to these young sort of like 25, 24-year-olds that are just like absolute weapons. Of course, Gordon Ryan minced him, but like he's not going to get like dominated by anyone by any means. You know what I mean? Like no one's going to go out there and just run through Cyborg. So it's one of the only sports where I guess the thing is technique matters so much, right? If you're good at jiu-jitsu and you're very technical, that will just carry you through for a long time. It matters so much more than every other attribute.
Yeah. I have to say, isolations made me way more. It's helped me like reassess my life and what my goals are, and taking martial arts training a little more seriously. When we come back from all this is definitely on my list. Like, not just showing up 3 times a week and kind of just fucking around having a laugh, but actually like doing it with intent and doing a little bit of extra training at home. And just putting that a bit more time into it and improving my sort of standard.
Yeah,
that's what I've got out of this stuff. Just taking it just like 10% more seriously.
Yep.
And like I have no intentions to win anything or to anything, right? I just want to keep continuing on the belt journey.
Yep.
But be at a standard I'm happy with, and that I know that requires a bit more work. And so that's kind of where I'm with my own training now.
That's good perspective. Hey, like I think nearly anyone would get huge benefit from that. Just that sort of mentality of 10% more effort. That'd probably push most people at Match Shark over to the next belt level. You know what I mean? Like it's just that little bit extra push that most people need. Yeah. Yeah. And it is that 10% over time, 10% per session across the week, big difference.
Yeah, adds up over a year. Yeah.
It does, man. A lot, quite a lot. Just that, like you said, that intent. A lot of guys I know, this is probably more from Armour, like guys I've known for 10 years or so, right? They go through the motions. They sort of show up and they just, they come in, they do the class, but they kind of just float through it. They do their rolls and they go home. And they typically are pretty similar grapplers to how they were back then. They're not too different. They get 1 or 2 new tricks. They're a little bit harder to roll, but they're not too different in any regard. And you get some guys that are like been there 4 years. They may be a blue belt, and they're a handful because when they come to training, they just want to learn that technique and they want to get it as good as they can. And they just have that intent, like, I want to learn this shit, and they pick it up a lot better. So same as I was saying about Kev, like if you have that sort of attention to the drill you're doing, you're not going through the motions, you typically come away with the technique and you take it home with you. If you sort of check out mentally, you leave the door and you forget it and it never comes back, So you have to like be present when you train.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's just being a little bit more accountable.
Yep.
For training, being more critical in thinking, not just going through motions, and like just that little bit more. You know what I mean?
I've always found as a coach too, you can like lead a horse to water, but like certain people, you can't like force into their head. You have to. The onus is on them, 50% to learn it. You can teach it, but they have to do it themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Anyway, man. I think we've gone for about an hour and a half, but yeah, that was awesome, man. Like pretty much covered some pretty cool stuff, and it's been really great to have you on as the first guest.
It's cool. I really enjoyed it. I'm now going to sit down and watch Netflix and order a pizza and feel like I'm doing my part for society. So,
killer, man. It's so good. I'll get you on in the future as well. I'll get you back on and we'll do another episode maybe in a month's time or something if you're down for it.
I'd love to talk about like historical stuff with martial arts and fitness training and that kind of thing. I know we were going to touch on it, but we didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, just over the years, I've just read a lot and I find it super fascinating. And I know you've got really good knowledge of like grappling history, so I'd love to pick your brains on that as well.
That'd be cool, man. Yeah. That'd be really.
That'd be fun to chat about. We should do that.
Yeah, let's make it happen, man. I'm down for that 100%. That'd be killer.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much. Enjoy your pizza, and I'll hopefully see you sooner rather than later.